Hey YouTube, this is Southern Prepper 1. I'm going to continue talking about EMP. The reason I'm talking about it, it is a real legitimate threat that has increased, I think, a lot in the last 6 months. This is a way where someone could attack the United States, still leave a lot of the infrastructure in place, comparing to a nuclear war where they're going to actually detonate weapons to cause destruction. I had a lot of questions. When a nuke goes off, triggering the EMP, the only effect we have to worry about is the EMP, the electromagnetic pulse. A lot of people, some ask questions, do I need to protect my hearing? I don't think so. Never read where you have to protect your hearing. Now you'll definitely hear the explosion, but it's going to be so many miles up in the air, and the purpose of it, the farther they get it up, the farther it will spread, and that's what they want. One of the questions was, Dave, you say you got to get out of the city, location. Is there any way I can survive in the city? Your chances of surviving in the city are probably 1 in a billion. I mean, that's just how it's going to be. Just because you're going to have a lot of people, you're going to have a lot of people looking for resources, and your security threat is there, and you do not have resources like the country. Now, granted, you will have the whatever is stockpiled in warehouses and in stores that will be available, but it's going to be so chaotic. Your chances increase by going to getting out in the country where there's less people. But when you have less people, you're also vulnerable to a force coming in. A lot of people always say they're going to blow the bridges connecting, to keep the city folks from coming into the country. And that's very viable. I mean, I'm not advocating destruction of public property at all, but under the situation of an EMP, total lawlessness, total chaos, and it's not going to come back, that could be a viable option. Now, if you as an individual or a couple guys decide, hey, we're going to blow the bridge, and the rest of your community finds out about it, they could be very upset with you because that's their lifeline also. Also, you got to remember that if you destroy a bridge, what are you going to do to get back and forth? Now, granted, if there's no automobiles or 99% of the automobiles are not working, you could probably just put up a very temporary bridge of just walking across it, or you could forge across the low spots. There are some areas that have huge bridges. A lot of those bridges are out of our capabilities to destroy. You might not have the ability to take down a big concrete or metal bridge with what civilians legally have now. There is opportunity, though, if you're far out in the country. A lot of bridges are they're not built like the interstate bridges, and they can definitely be beaten. They can be beaten by heavy equipment. Also, it's easy to beat a culvert or something like that by simply blocking up the river, letting the water go around where it normally goes, and then eroding the embankments, the supports, the piers. Yes, this would take time, and if you're in an area that doesn't get a lot of rain, it might take a lot of time. But in my area where I get constant rain, I have seen culverts washed out because they would get clogged up and the water would divert around them and then wash sections of the road out. So that's a possibility, but I am not advocating the destruction of public property in any way. It's just something to think about. So we covered the launch. We covered the Lord is in control. Loser mentality. Gotta lose the loser mentality. And then location. Let's talk about some other things. Let's talk about the locals in your area. Who's around you? If you live in Crack Alley, or you live in an area that you can't even leave your lawn chair outside on your porch because it'll get ripped off, you're going to be in trouble. Those people are probably not going to come together and take care of each other. You never know, but if you're fearful of crime right now when times are good, it's definitely going to be exponentially worse. So you got to look at that. Who lives around you? If you live out in the country and you're surrounded by good country folks that are somewhat self-sufficient. They might not call themselves preppers, but they are country folks. They have gardens, they have trees, they have animals, and that's their way of life. Canning is their way of life. They don't call themselves a prepper. That's huge. Now, you can get out in the country, and you get areas where they're heavily, drugs have just infiltrated, and you got a lot of people that are hooked on drugs. So being out in the country doesn't guarantee you a safe place. I know areas in my general area where just very local areas, a little subdivision, I wouldn't want to be caught in there at nighttime. But the country does offer you definitely lots of more resources. I want to talk about an EMP going off. It's going to create an environment that's going to be very unstable. You might have a great place. You might have 5 or 6 good neighbors out there in the country. The problem's going to exist, though, where people are going to band together. Good people band together, bad people band together. And I mean bad people in the sense of gangs or criminal elements. They're going to band together and become a very large group of people. And by becoming so large, they will have no problems running over very, very small towns. They'll have no problems running over people that have a farm. Even if you got 4 or 5 families that come to that farm, very easy. 50, 100 guys is not going to be out of the question almost immediately. These gangs will grow larger, larger, and larger. And they'll be able to just roam into the countryside. And as they go into the countryside, they're going to be getting resources. So, I'm not trying to depress you, but this is a Mad Max scenario. So, all of the logistical stuff you've put back as a prepper, you're going to need to go to the next level of prepping and say, okay, I have all this stuff here. Things are getting bad. Do I need to start caching this stuff? Do I need to start hiding this stuff in the woods? Putting it out there. So if I do have to leave my home, my farm, my very small town, I'll have resources out there where I can get. That's a real possibility. There's no guarantee 4 or 5 families are going to make it. If you have 100 armed bad guys, some of these people are ruthless. They have no morals. They're going to have no problem doing very cruel things to you. So you realistically, and I've had to deal with this in the military, you realistically have to look at your situation. You just can't say, oh, I'm U.S. Army infantry, man. I got F-16s overhead. I could get on the horn. I got Apaches. I got all this stuff. You're not going to have nothing to assist you. So don't think that you're in the right, that you've done everything right up to this point, and that you're going to be okay. You're going to have to come up with a plan for your leaving your facility. Now, I know a lot of are going to say, man, I'm never leaving, man. I'm going to go down with the ship. I'm going to dig in. There is a time to dig in. There is a time to organize a proper defense of your area. And there's also a time to look at the intel and say, there's 500 bad guys coming at me. I am not going to stay here with 25 people and defend it. There's no way you can. So I want you to think, how can I disperse my resources, my logistics, so I can fade into the countryside. This goes back to where you are, your location, your location, your location. If you're in an area that's nice and flat, not a lot of hiding spots, the terrain is flat, it doesn't encourage you to survive. It doesn't encourage some type of guerrilla operations. Guerrilla operations are usually done either in the cities or in the roughest terrain possible. The rougher the terrain, it easier is for you to hide. It's easy for me to walk 5 minutes from this house, disappear into the mountains. Very easy. It's so rough. What that does is it keeps vehicles. There's not many vehicles. There's no vehicles. Maybe some off-road, on-road, or dirt bikes could go to some of the places I could go. But overall, it is so rough terrain, it's going to aid me in disappearing. If you live in Florida and it's flat, you live in Iowa and it's flat, it does not aid you disappearing. Maybe if you could go into the swamp area and develop some resources or the ability to hide out in a swamp, down in Florida, down in Louisiana. That will help you. But this is worse, and I hate doing these videos because a lot of people are just barely having enough money and time and ability to prep for 60 days, for 30 days. And now I'm throwing this at you, but I want it in the back of your head because it does not cost you a penny to war game. And this is what we're trying to do, war game it, come up with scenarios. How would I do in this scenario? And this is a scenario. EMP, I'd like to talk a little bit about, we get hit with an EMP and it is an attack by a foreign country, not a terrorist organization, but an actual foreign. Let's just say, for discussion purposes, China. China hits us with an EMP. Will China immediately launch troops into the United States if they have taken care of our military abroad and we don't have any threats against them? Will they immediately? I don't know. Maybe they're going to wait 3 months, 6 months as we eat ourselves up, as we destroy ourselves just trying to survive. And then they can come in here and mop up and take our natural resources, be it our farmland. There's a lot of other things that we don't have here, like manufacturing, which for us would be a problem, trying to fire up manufacturing after an EMP when you have no manufacturing. Now, granted, you have to get the power grid up, or locally they'd have to get some type of power running. So, I have brainstormed, I have war game, the EMP going off, China putting troops inside the United States. And that's a whole different video series. What would I personally do? I wouldn't roll over. I have a plan for that. That plan would turn really into some type of guerrilla warfare. Might even just basically turn into trying to survive. So you mentally have to have a plan. Okay, I have all these resources. I might have to walk away from them. Totally say, it's gone. It's not mine. I have to preserve my life, my family's life. And maybe moving and living somewhere else. And when I say that, it's more like going to the woods, going to the mountains. That's the only true place you can survive. You can't stay in a location where they can bring vehicles to you. If you think you're going to fight that, you're crazy. You have to take yourself into an environment where it puts you almost peer-to-peer, one-on-one compared to you against a military, be it armored vehicles, be it tanks, be it whatever. Gets into the idea of drones. You say, okay, I go to the woods. If you go to the woods in Florida, and it's going to be very hard to hide. Trying to defeat drones, and I don't want to talk about too much about defeating drones right here. Plus, it's not really I want to talk about on such a public forum. But EMP is a threat. I hope this helps. I hope I'm not confusing you. I hope I'm not depressing you thinking, oh, I can't survive this. It's a worst case event. But I want you to war game it out. I want you to figure out, okay, EMP goes off. I know what's going to happen. I know what to expect. Do I need to leave? Do I need to find a very safe hidey hole? I recommend everyone, if you have a great retreat, don't think, okay, I got my buddy that has a great retreat. I'm just going to go to his property if mine's in jeopardy. If a vehicle can get to your property or can get to your buddy's property, it's probably not the best place to be. You want to take yourself remote, so it takes vehicles out of the picture. And if someone's coming to find you, they're going to have to physically walk in there. If you're in the mountains, Appalachian, Rocky Mountains, that's going to be hard for them because I'm trying to deny them vehicles. And then also in some of the valleys and the gullies and the draws around here, it will help you stay away from helicopters. But that's getting more into the guerrilla side and not into, hey, this is just EMP. It's terrible. It's no law and order. So I hope I'm not depressing you. That's not the point. I had about 20 things to say and I said about 3, but this is long enough, so I'm going to end it here. I will continue talking about EMP just so you can get ready for what's coming, and I pray it never comes. I hope 5 years from now we're like, oh, never happened, and then we'll say hallelujah. and continue doing your homesteading and your animals and your gardening and your self-sufficient lifestyle. I hope this helps. Thanks for watching.